The space station called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was a place where different species came to trade, talk, and make deals. Thousands of aliens lived and worked there. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no bodies at all, just clouds of light that drifted through the halls. Humans were new to the galactic community, and only a few dozen of them worked on the station. Yuna was one of those humans. She was 26 years old, small in height, and quiet in nature. She worked in the administrative section, processing shipping documents and trade agreements. It was boring work, but she liked it. She liked the routine. She liked her small desk near the window where she could watch ships come and go. She liked her oversized gray hoodie that she wore every day because the station was always too cold for her. On this particular morning, Yuna arrived at her desk with a cup of hot tea and a tired smile. She had not slept well. The station's heating system was broken again, and her quarters had been freezing all night. But she was here, and she had work to do. She did not know that somewhere on the other side of the station, alarms were ringing. Ambassador Tellus stood in the security command center with his forearms crossed over his chest. He was a Velrani, a species known for their silver scales and calm thinking. But right now, he was not calm. His golden eyes moved across the security screens, watching officers run through corridors and search rooms. "How did this happen?" he asked. His voice was low and controlled, but everyone in the room could hear the anger beneath it. Security Chief Barak stepped forward. He was a Thoran, a species that walked on 4 thick legs and had skin like gray stone. He was the largest person in the room, but he looked small under the ambassador's gaze. "The nursery's ventilation system," Barak said. There was a gap in the grating. The cubs squeezed through during the night cycle. "We did not notice until the morning check." 3 cubs, Tellus said slowly. 3 Karathi cubs. Missing on my station. The words hung in the air like poison. The Karathi were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They came from a planet called Karath Prime, a world of endless forests and violent storms. They looked like foxes that had learned to walk upright, with sharp teeth, golden eyes, and fur that shimmered in different colors. They were predators. They were warriors. And they were very, very protective of their children. Ambassador Rena had brought her 3 cubs to the station as a sign of trust. It was the first time in 50 years that a Karathi leader had traveled with her young. It was supposed to show that the Karathi wanted peace, that they were willing to be vulnerable. Now those cubs were gone. Rena paced the diplomatic hall like a caged animal. Her fur was dark red, almost the color of blood, and it stood up along her spine. Her claws clicked against the metal floor with each step. Her golden eyes burned with a light that made everyone in the room step back. "Find them," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of mountains. "Find my children, or I will tear this station apart with my own hands." No one doubted her. The Karathi were known for their strength. A single adult could tear through steel doors. A single ship could destroy a fleet. And Rena was not just any Karathi. She was the High Ambassador, the voice of her entire species. Tellus bowed his head. "We will find them, Ambassador. Every officer on the station is searching. We have sealed all exits. No ship can leave until the cubs are recovered." "They are small," Rena said. Her voice cracked just a little. "They are only 6 months old. They do not know this place. They do not know these people." She turned to face the window, looking out at the stars. They must be so scared. For a moment, she was not the terrifying predator that the galaxy feared. She was just a mother, worried about her babies. In Sector 7B. Yuna knew nothing of this. She typed at her console, processing forms and checking numbers. Her coworkers moved around her, talking in languages she did not understand. A Velrani named Dowan sat at the desk next to hers, his 4 hands moving across 4 different keyboards at once. "Did you hear?" Dowan asked. "Something is happening in the diplomatic wing. Security is everywhere." Yuna shrugged. "Probably another trade dispute. Remember last month when the Belkari accused the Mox of stealing their shipping routes? Security was running around for days." "This feels different," Dowan said. "I heard they sealed the docking bays. No one can leave." "Well, I was not planning to leave anyway." Yuna smiled and took a sip of her tea. "I have too much work to do." Dowan laughed. Humans were strange, he thought. They were so small, so soft, so fragile. They came from a planet that was trying to kill them in 100 different ways. Yet they acted like everything was normal. Like they were not surrounded by species that could crush them with a single blow. But there was something about them that Dowan liked. They were warm. Not just in body temperature, though that was true too. Humans ran hot compared to most species. But they were warm in other ways. In the way they smiled. In the way they helped without being asked. In the way they made friends with everyone, no matter how different. Yuna finished her tea and stretched her arms. Her shift was only half over, but she was already tired. Maybe she would take a walk during her break. The biodome gardens were nice this time of day. The artificial sun was warm, and the plants from 100 worlds filled the air with sweet smells. She had no idea that her walk would change everything. She had no idea that 3 small, scared creatures were hiding in those gardens, waiting for someone to find them. She had no idea that by the end of the day, her name would be spoken in the halls of power across the galaxy. For now, she was just Yuna, a small human in a big universe, doing her job and drinking her tea. But the universe had plans for her Dot, and those plans were about to begin. The biodome gardens were Yuna's favorite place on the entire station. They sat at the center of Horizon's Edge like a green heart, full of plants and trees from dozens of different worlds. The ceiling was made of special glass that mimicked sunlight, and the air was warm and wet. It reminded her of the summers she had spent at her grandmother's house in the countryside. Surrounded by rice fields and wildflowers, she walked along the stone path, listening to the sound of water falling from artificial streams. A few other workers were there too, eating lunch on benches or simply enjoying the peace. Yuna found her usual spot near a cluster of blue ferns from the planet Melos. She sat down, closed her eyes, and let the warmth wash over her. That was when she heard it. A small sound. High and soft. Like a kitten crying. Yuna opened her eyes and looked around. She saw nothing unusual. Just plants and paths and the distant shapes of other people. But the sound came again. It was coming from below her, from somewhere near the ground. Dot. She got up and followed the sound. It led her to a ventilation grate set into the floor near the wall. The grate was old, and one corner had come loose. There was a gap just big enough for something small to squeeze through. Yuna crouched down and looked into the darkness. 3 pairs of golden eyes looked back at her. Dot. She gasped and almost fell backward. The eyes blinked. The crying sound came again, louder now, more desperate. Yuna leaned closer, letting her eyes adjust to the shadows. She saw them. 3 small creatures, huddled together in the vent. They had fur that shimmered like oil on water, changing colors as they moved. Their faces looked like foxes, with pointed ears and long snouts. They were shaking. They were scared. They were babies. "Oh no," Yuna whispered. "Oh, you poor things. What are you doing down there?" The largest one sniffed the air. It seemed to be studying her, deciding if she was dangerous. Yuna stayed very still. She knew nothing about these creatures. She did not know if they would bite. She did not know if they were poisonous. But she knew that they were cold and afraid, and that was enough. Slowly, carefully, she extended her hand toward the gap. "It is okay," she said softly. "I am not going to hurt you. Come here." "Come on." The largest cub crept forward. Its nose touched her fingers. It was cold, so cold that it made her skin tingle. The cub sniffed her hand for a long moment. Then, to Yuna's surprise, it licked her palm. She smiled. "There, see? I am friendly." The cub made a small chirping sound. It climbed out of the vent and into her hand. It was lighter than she expected, no bigger than a small cat. Its fur was soft and warm against her skin. The other two cubs followed, drawn by their siblings' courage. Soon all three were climbing up her arms, chirping and nuzzling against her. "Oh my goodness," Yuna laughed. Okay. Easy there." She stood up carefully, holding the cubs against her chest. They pressed close to her, seeking her warmth. Humans ran hotter than most species in the galaxy. To these small creatures, she must have felt like a living heater. Yuna looked around for help. She needed to find someone who could tell her what these cubs were and where they belonged. But the garden was nearly empty now. The lunch hour was ending, and people were returning to work. She walked to the information desk near the garden's entrance. It was closed. A sign on the window said the attendant would return in 1 hour. She tried the security office next. A holographic voice asked her to describe her emergency and wait for assistance. She waited for 20 minutes. No one came. The cubs were getting restless. They were hungry. Yuna could feel their small stomachs rumbling against her chest. One of them started to cry again, a thin, sad sound that broke her heart. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I will figure this out." She went to the cafeteria. It was crowded with workers from a dozen species, all eating and talking loudly. Yuna felt out of place, standing there with 3 alien babies clinging to her shirt. But she pushed forward and found the food dispensers. She did not know what the cubs ate. She did not know if they could eat human food. But she remembered reading somewhere that most carbon-based species could digest protein paste. It was bland and tasteless, but it was safe. She ordered a bowl of the paste and found a quiet corner. Carefully, she dipped her finger in the paste and held it out to the largest cub. It sniffed the paste, then licked it. Its golden eyes widened. It licked again, faster this time. "You like it?" Yuna smiled. "Good. There's plenty." She fed all 3 cubs until the bowl was empty. They ate hungrily, desperately, like they had not eaten in a long time. When they were done, they curled up against her chest and closed their eyes. They were asleep within minutes. Yuna sat there in the cafeteria corner, surrounded by noise and strangers, holding 3 sleeping alien babies. She did not know what to do. She had tried to find help. She had tried to do the right thing. But no one was answering, and she could not just leave them somewhere. She looked down at her hoodie. It was big and loose, with a large pocket in the front. She had bought it because it was comfortable, not because she ever thought she would use it for this. But now, looking at the sleeping cubs, an idea formed in her mind. Gently, carefully, she tucked the 3 cubs into the front pocket of her hoodie. They fit perfectly, nestled together in the soft fabric. They did not wake up. They just snuggled closer and kept sleeping. Yuna stood up. She could feel their warmth against her stomach. She could feel their small hearts beating, fast but steady. "I will take care of you," she whispered, "just until we find your family." She walked back to her desk. Her co-workers did not notice anything unusual. Why would they? She was just Yuna, the quiet human who always wore the big gray hoodie. She sat down at her console and started working again. Inside her hoodie, the cubs slept on. They dreamed of warmth and safety and the sound of a heartbeat that felt almost like their mother's. They did not know that half the station was searching for them. They did not know that their mother was threatening to start a war. They only knew that they were full and warm, and that the strange creature who had found them smelled like kindness. And that was enough. The search for the Karathi cubs had become the largest operation in the history of Horizon's Edge. Every security officer was working. Every camera was being watched. Every room, every corridor, every storage closet was being checked and checked again. Security Chief Barek stood in the command center, watching the reports come in. Nothing, nothing, nothing. The word appeared on screen after screen. His stone-gray skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress among his species. He had been awake for 18 hours, and he was no closer to finding those cubs than when he started. How is this possible? He growled. 3 cubs. They cannot have vanished into nothing. His assistant, a thin Bokhari with purple skin and large eyes, pulled up a map of the station. They went through the ventilation system. The ducts connect to almost every part of the station. They could be anywhere, then search everywhere again. Sir, we have searched everywhere. 3 times. Barek slammed his fist against the console. The metal dented under his strength. Then search a 4th time, and a 5th, and a 10th. We do not stop until those cubs are found. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Rena had stopped pacing. She sat now, still as a statue, her golden eyes fixed on nothing. Her 2 guards stood nearby, watching her with worry. They had never seen their leader like this. The High Ambassador was famous for her strength, her courage, her fierce spirit. But now she looked hollow, empty, like something inside her had broken. They are just babies, she said quietly. They do not understand. They do not know why they are alone. Her voice cracked. My little ones. My precious little ones. Ambassador Tellus approached her carefully. He had served in the diplomatic corps for 40 years. He had seen wars, famines, plagues. He had seen species rise and fall. But he had never seen anything as dangerous as a grieving mother. We are doing everything we can, he said. Every officer, every resource. We will find them. Rena looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but the tears did not fall. Karathi did not cry in public. It was considered a sign of weakness. But Telos could see how much she was holding back. If they are hurt, she said, if anything has happened to them, there will be consequences. I do not want there to be consequences. I do not want war. But I am a mother first, and my children come before everything. Do you understand? Telos nodded. I understand. In Sector 7B, the search teams arrived just after lunch. Yuna looked up from her work as a group of officers marched into the administrative area. They wore tactical gear and carried scanning devices. Their leader, a tall mox with blue skin and 4 eyes, began giving orders. Everyone stay at your desks. We are conducting a sweep. Do not interfere with the operation. The officers spread out through the room. They looked under desks, inside cabinets, behind equipment. They scanned walls for heat signatures. They checked every corner, every shadow. Yuna felt her heart start to beat faster. Inside her hoodie, the cubs were still sleeping. She could feel their small bodies pressed against her stomach. They were warm and still and quiet. She did not know why the officers were searching. She did not connect these events to the 3 babies she had found in the garden. Why would she? She was just a low-level worker. No one told her anything about diplomatic crises or missing cubs or angry ambassadors. 2 officers approached her desk. One of them, a young Velrani with nervous eyes, held out a scanning device. Ma'am, we need to check your area. Yuna nodded and pushed her chair back slightly. Of course. What are you looking for? Missing items, the officer said carefully. He had been told not to reveal the nature of the search. The last thing they needed was panic. Small items. Have you seen anything unusual today? Yuna thought about it. The cubs had been unusual, certainly. But she had found them hours ago, and no one had come to claim them. She had tried to report them. It was not her fault that no one had listened. Nothing unusual, she said. Just a normal day. The officer scanned her desk, her console, the floor around her chair. The scanner beeped and hummed. Yuna held her breath. The scanner did not detect the cubs. It was designed to find Karathi heat signatures, but humans ran so hot that the cubs' body heat blended perfectly with Yuna's own. To the scanner, she was just one warm blob, not four. All clear, the officer said. He moved on to the next desk. Yuna let out a slow breath. She did not know why she was so nervous. She had not done anything wrong. But something in her gut told her that those cubs were important, and that she needed to protect them until she could find someone to help. The search continued for another hour. Officers went through every room in the sector. They found nothing. The cubs remained hidden, sleeping peacefully against Yuna's warm stomach, dreaming whatever dreams baby aliens dream. When the officers finally left, Dawan turned to Yuna with wide eyes. That was intense, he said. What do you think they were looking for? I do not know, Yuna said honestly. But whatever it is, I hope they find it. Dawan nodded and returned to his work. Yuna did the same. But she was distracted now. She kept thinking about the cubs, about their golden eyes, about the way they had trusted her so completely. She needed to find their family. She needed to return them to wherever they belonged. But she could not do that if she did not know what species they were. During her afternoon break, she went to the station's library terminal. She searched through databases of known species, looking for anything that matched the cub's description. Fox-like features, iridescent fur, golden eyes. She found them on the third page of results. KOR, a tie dot. Her blood went cold as she read the description. Apex predators. One of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Highly protective of their young. Known for their strength, their ferocity, their willingness to destroy anything that threatened their families. She looked down at her hoodie, at the 3 small bumps sleeping inside. Oh no, she whispered. What did I get myself into? She thought about going to security, about explaining everything. But a new fear had taken root in her heart. What if they thought she had stolen the cubs? What if they thought she was a kidnapper? Humans were still new to the galactic community. They were still proving themselves. One mistake could ruin everything. She needed to think. She needed a plan. But first, she needed to get through the rest of her shift without anyone noticing the 3 most wanted babies in the galaxy sleeping in her hoodie. The day was ending. Workers were packing up their things and leaving their desks. The artificial lights in Sector 7B were dimming to signal the shift change. Yuna remained at her station, pretending to finish some paperwork while her mind raced with worry. The cubs had woken up an hour ago. They were getting restless. One of them kept poking its head out of her hoodie, sniffing the air with curiosity. Yuna had to keep gently pushing it back down, whispering soft words to keep it calm. Just a little longer, she said quietly. Please, just stay hidden a little longer. She had a plan now. She would wait until most people had left. Then she would go to the diplomatic wing herself. She would find someone important and explain everything. She would show them the cubs, tell them how she had found them, and hope that they understood she was only trying to help Dot. It was not a great plan, but it was the only one she had. Dawan was still at his desk, finishing his own work. He glanced over at Yuna and noticed something strange. Her hoodie was moving. Not much, just a small shifting of fabric near her stomach. He frowned. Yuna, he said slowly. Are you feeling okay? I am fine, she said quickly. Just tired. Your hoodie is moving. Yuna froze. She looked down. The largest cub had poked its head out again, its golden eyes blinking in the office light. Its iridescent fur caught the glow and shimmered with a dozen different colors. Do-hwan's forearms went stiff. His silver scales turned pale. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Do-hwan," Yuna said carefully. "I can explain. That is a Karathi cub," he whispered. His voice was shaking. "Yuna, that is a Karathi cub. I know. I found them in the garden. They were lost and scared, and... them?" Do-hwan's eyes went even wider. "There is more than one?" As if answering his question, the other two cubs poked their heads out of the hoodie. 3 pairs of golden eyes looked at Do-hwan with innocent curiosity. One of them yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth. Do-hwan stood up so fast that his chair fell over. "The entire station is looking for those cubs. The Karathi ambassador is threatening to destroy everything if they are not found. This is the biggest crisis in 20 years, and you have them in your hoodie?" "I tried to report them," Yuna said desperately. The information desk was closed. Security did not answer. What was I supposed to do? Leave them in a cold vent to die? Do-hwan pressed his hands against his face. He was breathing fast, trying to stay calm. He had worked with humans for 3 years. He knew they were strange. He knew they adopted everything, from dangerous animals to broken machines to lost children of other species. But this was too much. "We need to tell someone," he said. "Right now. Before this gets worse." "I agree," Yuna said. "Help me, please." Do-hwan nodded. He pulled out his communication device and called security. He explained the situation in quick, nervous words. The response was immediate. Within 5 minutes, the administrative area was surrounded. Officers poured into the room from every entrance. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that Yuna did not recognize. They formed a circle around her desk, their eyes fixed on the small human woman with 3 alien babies in her HOODIE. Then the circle parted. An Ambassador Telos walked through. His silver scales caught the light. His golden eyes were hard and serious. Behind him came Security Chief Barak, his massive body filling the doorway. And behind them came Rena. The Karathi ambassador moved like a predator stalking prey. Her dark red fur stood up along her spine. Her claws were extended, gleaming like knives. Her golden eyes burned with an intensity that made everyone in the room step back. Everyone except Yuna. Yuna stood slowly, her hands raised to show she was not a threat. Inside her hoodie, the cubs had gone still. They could smell their mother. They could hear her heartbeat. But they did not move toward her. Instead, they pressed closer to Yuna, burying themselves in her warmth. "So," Rena said. Her voice was low and dangerous. "You are the one who took my children." "I did not take them," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was pounding. "I found them. They were lost in the ventilation system near the gardens. They were cold and hungry and scared. I tried to report them, but no one answered. So I kept them safe until someone could help." Rena took a step closer. She was so much taller than Yuna, so much stronger. One swipe of her claws could end the human's life in an instant. "You expect me to believe that?" "It is the truth. The truth." Rena laughed bitterly. "Humans are good at lies. Good at manipulation. Good at taking what does not belong to them." "I am not lying," Yuna said firmly. "And I am not afraid of you." The room went silent. Even the guards looked shocked. No one talked to a Karathi ambassador like that. No one stood their ground against those golden eyes and sharp claws. But Yuna did. "Your children were alone and afraid," she continued. "They needed help. I helped them. That is all. I am not your enemy. I am just a person who did not want to see babies suffer." Rena stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. The rage was still there, but there was something else now. Confusion, doubt. "Give them to me," she said finally. "Give me my cubs." Yuna nodded. Slowly, carefully, she unzipped her hoodie. The three cubs blinked up at her, their golden eyes wide and uncertain. They could see their mother standing there. They could smell her familiar scent. But they did not run to Hoodie. Instead, they whimpered and pressed closer to Yuna. "No," the largest cub chirped. It was the first word any of them had spoken, a simple sound in the Karathi language that every species could understand. "No, warm, safe, stay." Rina's face changed. The anger melted away, replaced by something raw and painful. Her children did not want to leave the human. Her babies, her precious little ones, had bonded with a stranger. Why? She whispered. "Why will they not come to me?" Yuna understood then. She knelt down, bringing herself to the cubs' level. She stroked their fur gently and spoke in a soft voice. "Hey, little ones, look who is here. Your mother came all this way to find you. She was so worried. She loves you so much." She picked up the largest cub and held it toward Rina. "It is okay to go to her. She will keep you safe too. I promise." The cub looked at Yuna, then at Rina. Slowly, hesitantly, it reached out toward its mother. Rina caught it in her arms. She held it close, pressing her face into its fur. A sound escaped her throat, something between a sob and a growl. The other two cubs followed. They climbed out of Yuna's hoodie and crawled toward their mother. Rina gathered all three of them into her arms, holding them like she would never let go. For a moment, the dangerous predator was gone. There was only a mother, reunited with her children, and standing before her, a small human woman with an empty hoodie and a gentle smile. The silence in the room was heavy. Everyone watched as Ambassador Rina held her cubs, her powerful body shaking with relief. The guards did not know what to do. Their weapons were still raised, still pointed at Yuna, but the situation had changed. This was no longer a rescue mission. This was something else entirely. Ambassador Telos stepped forward. His voice was calm but filled with wonder. "Chief Barak, lower the weapons. There is no threat here." Barak hesitated. "Sir, we do not know. I said lower them." The guards obeyed. Weapons dropped to their sides. The circle around Yuna loosened, but no one left. They were all waiting to see what would happen next. Rina lifted her head from her cub's fur. Her golden eyes were wet, though no tears fell. She looked at Yuna with an expression that was hard to read. Was it gratitude? Confusion? Something else? "My cubs," she said slowly. "They should have rejected you. Karathi young are born with an instinct to fear strangers. They bite, they scratch, they run away. It is how we survive. It is how we have always survived." She paused. "But they did not reject you. They chose you. They slept against your heart like you were their own mother." Yuna did not know what to say. "They were cold. I was warm. Maybe that is all it was." "No," Rina shook her head. "It is more than that. I have raised many cubs. I have seen them with nurses, with guards, with family members. They do not bond like this. Not with strangers. Not with aliens." She took a step toward Yuna. "What are you?" Yuna almost laughed. It was a strange question. What was she? She was nobody. A small woman from a small planet, doing a small job on a big space station. She was nothing special. "I am human," she said simply. "That is all." Talos moved closer. His forearms were folded thoughtfully across his chest. "Ambassador Rina, I have studied humans for many years. They are a young species, still learning their place in the galaxy. But they have qualities that other species find unusual." "What qualities?" Rena asked. They adopt things, Telos said. Everything. Dangerous animals, broken machines, lost children, wounded enemies. It does not matter. If something needs care, humans will care for it. They cannot help themselves. It is written into their nature. Dawan spoke up from his desk, his voice nervous but eager. It is true. I have worked with Yuna for 2 years. She once nursed a sick cleaning robot back to function because she felt sorry for it. She brings food for the maintenance workers because she worries they forget to eat. She remembers everyone's birthday, even species that do not celebrate birthdays. Yuna felt her face grow warm. That is not special. Anyone would do the same. No, Telos said firmly. They would not. Most species look after their own. Most species protect their families, their clans, their nations. Humans protect everything. It is why they are so confusing to the rest of us. It is why they are so, he searched for the right word, disarming. Rena looked down at her cubs. They were calm now, nestled in her arms, but their eyes kept drifting back to Yuna. The bond they had formed in a single day was still there, still strong. My children trust you, Rena said quietly. Karathi cubs do not give their trust easily. Once given, it is never forgotten. She stepped toward Yuna until they were only an arm's length apart. You could have abandoned them. You could have ignored their cries. You could have reported them and walked away. But you held them. You fed them. You kept them warm when no one else would. They were scared, Yuna said. I just did what felt right. What felt right. Rena repeated the words like she was tasting them. Such a simple thing. Such a human thing. She took a deep breath. Among my people, there is a tradition. When someone saves a Karathi life, they become part of our family. When someone saves a Karathi child, they become something more. The room grew even more quiet. Even Telos looked surprised. Rena knelt down. It was a shocking sight. The most powerful ambassador in the galaxy, one of the most feared predators in known space, kneeling before a small human woman in a worn gray hoodie. By the laws of Korath Prime, by the blood of my ancestors, by the bond my children have chosen, I name you den mother to my line. Rena's voice rang out clear and strong. From this day forward, you are family. Our enemies are your enemies. Our strength is your strength. Our home is your home. Yuna stared at her. I do not understand. You do not need to understand, Rena said. She rose to her feet, her eyes warm for the first time since the crisis began. You only need to accept. What happens if I accept? Then you are under the protection of the Karathi Empire. No one in the galaxy will dare harm you. No one will dare threaten you. You will be welcomed on any Karathi world, in any Karathi home. Rena smiled, showing her sharp teeth. You will also be expected to visit. My cubs will want to see their den mother again. Yuna looked at the 3 small faces watching her from Rena's arms. Their golden eyes were bright with hope. The largest one chirped softly, a sound that needed no translation. Please stay. Please be family. Yuna felt tears prick at her eyes. She had come to this station 3 years ago because she wanted adventure. She had found paperwork and shipping forms and cold nights in a broken heating system. She had never expected this. She had never expected to matter. I accept, she said. Rena nodded. Then, to everyone's shock, she pulled Yuna into a hug. The cubs squeaked with joy as they were pressed between their mother and their new den mother. Yuna disappeared into Rena's thick fur, surrounded by warmth and the sound of purring. When they finally separated, Ambassador Telos was smiling. Security Chief Barak looked like he had forgotten how to breathe. Dohan was recording everything on his personal device, already planning to send the video to everyone he knew. Wow, Tella said. I think this crisis is officially over. Rena laughed. It was a rich, warm sound that filled the room. It is more than over. It is the beginning of something new. She turned to face the gathered crowd. Let the galaxy know what happened here today. Let them know that a human woman showed more courage and kindness than armies and treaties ever could. Let them know that humanity has earned the friendship of the Karathi. The news spread fast. By the end of the day, every station in the sector knew the story. By the end of the week, it had reached the core worlds. By the end of the month, children on 100 planets were hearing bedtime stories about the human who held predator cubs against her heart and became their family. Una went back to her desk the next day. She still had shipping forms to process. She still had trade agreements to review. But now her coworkers looked at her differently. They smiled when she walked by. They asked about her day. They wanted to know what it was like to be adopted by apex predators. She told them it was nice. And in her hoodie pocket, she kept a small photograph that Rena had given her. 3 cubs, sleeping peacefully against a gray background that looked very much like human fabric. On the back, in careful handwriting, were words in both Karathi and human script. For our den mother. For our family. For the warmest heart in the galaxy. Una smiled every time she read it. She had come to the stars looking for adventure. She had found something better. She had found home.